What's that sound? It's for amusement only, the EM and Bingo Pinball Podcast.
Welcome back to For Amusement Only. This is Nick Baldridge. Where we left off in the cleaning of our new machine, the top side has been completely stripped, and the mechanisms that are preventing proper cleaning have been removed. So now what remains is to begin the actual cleaning process. And this can take a few different forms, and it depends on how filthy the game actually is. You can normally evaluate this based on the condition of the playfield. If there are multiple dirt tracks worn into the playfield, then your cleaning is going to have to be more intensive. If there's a huge layer of junk covering the entire playfield, like you got it from a barn, then you've got a bit of work ahead of you and some elbow grease. And there's no miracle product that I know that's going to do the work for you. It involves actually rubbing and scrubbing and getting it shiny. So, as far as products go, there's a few different ones on the market, and then there's some stuff that's not strictly pinball related that you can also try. I get asked frequently what to use to clean playfields and what I use, and honestly, I try not to get too crazy, and this prevents my games from losing their ink that's been there for years and years and years. Now, some people get really harsh with their playfields and take a magic eraser to them. I will do that in an extreme case, but for the most part, taking the time and applying the appropriate elbow grease will do the work for you without damaging the top coat on your playfield. So I had mentioned a few episodes back that I'm not in favor of automotive clear coat on playfields, but the original surface is something that is to be preserved, and of course it's held up for these many years. So taking care of that, I feel, is pretty important. And when you use magic eraser, you actually wet it with alcohol, rubbing alcohol, a high concentration. But what that will do, aside from cutting through the wax that coats it, is cut through that top coat and actually dig into the paint or the ink. And then you need to protect what you've done. So some spot clear coating is in order. Not everyone takes time to do that. And so I've seen in more than one instance where someone has magic erasered something and their ink has started to wear away, and they don't know what they've done wrong. And so taking alcohol to the playfield surface should be a kind of a last resort if nothing else will work. So, getting to the actual cleaning, what I do is take a soft rag and put either mill wax directly on it. That's a cleaner wax that Steve Young sells. It smells terrible. Certainly does the job. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have any detrimental effects even on very old machines. And so I will use that. If the machine is very dirty, I will either use Novus 2 or Wildcat 125, which comes in a bottle. It also smells terrible. However, it is less damaging certainly the Novus 2. Novus 2 is great on newer playfields with a diamond coat. They just have a different kind of finish to them, that automotive style clear coat, and they work more like a plastic. But the older machines, you're much closer to the actual wood, and therefore you have to treat them with care. So using either mill wax or Wildcat will do the trick. Now, another tactic, which I have practiced with Steve Smith, is to take some of that Gojo hand cleaner and actually put it on a toothbrush and scrub it around on the playfield. This gives the playfield a good shine, and then you wax over top of it, of course. But I'm not super excited to do that. I haven't seen any detrimental effects, but I would prefer to use some of the products which are made for this purpose specifically. Now, there's a lot of information out there about waxing, and there's a few different schools of thought. Some people will use only Carnauba waxes. Some people will use only mill wax, and I like to use kind of a variety. And it depends on what I've cleaned the playfield with. Now, if I have cleaned with Novus 2 or with Wildcat, I'll either wax with mill wax or try a Carnauba wax. And there's a variety of Carnauba style waxes on the market. They range in quality for this application, and I can't say that I'm super happy with the results of any that I've tried. Carnauba is a very hard wax, as it comes from the source, which is a plant. So it's cut with various things in order to make it soft so that you can apply it. And we're not talking about liquid waxes like a mill wax. This is a hard chunk that you put on an applicator and spread on the playfield. So, looking at what your local auto parts store has is sometimes advisable. I know Pinball Life sells a type of wax called Blitz, which I've never tried, but I hear it's pretty good. On the older games, of which is the focus of this podcast, I don't tend to like them, and that's because of the way that you're closer to the wood. So on older games, you get issues like planking and the like, and that's where the actual ink has split due to changes in the humidity, which have caused the wood to swell and shrink over time. Well, what happens when you wax is that space gets filled in with whatever thing that you're using to wax. So if you go and wax a playfield that has kind of spidering going on or planking, and you use a Carnauba wax, you have just amplified the effect of all that, because there's little tiny chunks of wax stuck in every single crevice. Using a mill wax is quite a bit better for this purpose, because it tends to not clump up in those small areas. Now, as far as applying the wax, I had mentioned an applicator for the Carnauba style, but for mill wax, I'll just use another clean rag. And what you do is you put it on the rag, you rub it on the machine. I use circular motions, and when the wax has hazed, so it dries on the playfield, and it will haze up. And then you take a microfiber cloth or another clean rag, and then you scrub it out I use the opposite circular motion. So just like in the Karate Kid, you go one direction with one arm and another direction with the other. But the trick is to scrub. I mean, it takes some elbow grease to make the machine shine. Now, once you do this, I tend to inspect the surface, roll a ball over it, and see how it performs. If it's moving smoothly and quickly through all areas, and you get the same sound of the ball rolling in all areas of the playfield, then I might stop with one coat. However, you will tend to get more longevity out of your waxing if you do it a second or a third time. Doesn't take anything but time. There's so much mill wax that comes in one of those bottles that it'll take you a really long time to wear through it. But there are some people who just absolutely hate mill wax, and I can respect that too. It is incredibly, terribly stinky, and my wife, for example, hates when I have rags that are covered in mill wax. So I do try to use the Caranuba when I can, but it depends again on the playfield surface. There are some that I don't appreciate what it does, so I tend to leave those alone. Now, if you got a playfield that's covered in wax and you need to remove it, any of the cleaners that I mentioned, mill wax, which is both a cleaner and a wax, Novus 2, or Wildcat, will in fact take the wax off. And cleaning a bingo machine or any other machine is really no different as far as the playfield goes. Even games from the 30s and the 40s all the way up to the 1990s, I mean, you can, or even today, you can use these techniques on all of them. Once you've done this one time and you get over the fear, taking all that stuff off of the playfield, it's something that you're going to want to do. I mean, it improves the performance of the game so much that it's something that you will appreciate. Refer back to my episodes on pop bumpers for rebuilding those, because that's something which will also greatly improve the performance. And then we'll get into flippers at a later date on how to rebuild those, unless I've already talked about that, which I'll have to check. But that should do it for playfield cleaning. Then you just have to reassemble in reverse of what you did, and you've already got all your polished and clean posts and plastics and flipper bats and all that set aside, your ball arch, everything, your rails. So any wooden pieces you want to wax, if you're working on a 30s game with a ramp or something like that, then you would need to wax that as well. Anywhere that the ball travels, you want to wax. And I like to wax the entire surface, and that way there's no chance of junk kind of traveling and getting stuck in the wax from other areas. It's just a good idea to clean the whole thing. So, thank you very much for joining me. My name again is Nick Baldridge. You can reach me at foramusementonlypodcast@gmail.com or on our voicemail line, which is 724-BINGOS1. That's 724-246-4671. You can listen to our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast via RSS, on Facebook, on Twitter @Bingo Podcast. You can follow me on Instagram @mbaldridge. We have a Google Plus page. Or you can listen to us on our website, which is foramusementonly.libsyn.com. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.